Over the past couple years, I've had the opportunity to fish from several different kayaks, and here recently I've been able to fish full time, allowing me to spend hundreds of hours on the water. With all the time that I've invested into kayak fishing, I've learned a ton of useful information which has helped to take me from getting skunked every single trip to being able to catch tons of fish from the kayak. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with y'all all of the things I wish I would have known when I first started out kayak fishing. So if that sounds cool to you, then sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. When it comes to kayak fishing, one thing that you have to take into account is the limited range we have on the water. This fact alone makes launch locations very important. Unlike a boat, which can launch from the dike and cover the entire bay, we are limited to a smaller area that we can effectively fish. When it comes to launch locations, I take a few things into account. First is accessibility. Depending on how sketchy you're willing to get, anything can technically become a kayak launch. But for myself, with the loads of extra stuff I have to bring, like the motor and batteries, I tend to stick to designated launch locations like boat ramps or kayak launches. That being said, the most important thing to think about when it comes to getting on fish is proximity to fishing spots. Here's an example to help explain a little better. Let's say I launch from Sportsman Road. My original game plan was to go out and target speckled trout along the reef, but after arriving and fishing for a little while, I realized the fish aren't there. I can quickly make my way back inshore and target the grass flats for redfish as well as flounder along these deep holes. As you can see, this launch has a ton of options when it comes to fishing spots, so if one plan falls through, you have other areas you can move to before having to load up and go launch somewhere else. Now, if you're a beginner and looking for spots like this, I have a few tips that might be able to help you. The cheapest but most time-consuming method is going to be using the internet. There is tons of free information here on YouTube and Google in general. Just taking some time to study up on your waters, look into local YouTubers, and scout some areas on Google Maps can get you going in the right direction. The second thing I'd recommend is looking into fishing reports. There are a lot of YouTubers that offer private fishing reports here in our area, where they show you the date and time of where they are catching fish and what they caught them on. Lastly, you could hire a kayak fishing guide. This is something I would recommend to complete beginners. A guide can provide so much more hands-on experience when it comes to fishing, and if you don't understand the nuance of inshore fishing, a guide can be there to put you in the right direction and help correct any little mistakes that you're making, while also showing you some solid fishing spots and techniques that work for the fish in your area. Once you get the hang of it, you should be able to pattern a solid trip all on your own without the help of a guide or fishing reports. A lot of kayaks nowadays come with a motor or some sort of pedal system, which is an awesome tool to have for certain situations, but most of the time spent kayak fishing in our area is going to be on real shallow flats with loads of mud or seagrass. One thing that I used to do when I first started out was try and force my way through shallow areas with a motor or pedals. This is all fine and dandy, and even though you can usually make it through without incident, dredging through the mud like that almost always makes a ton of noise, which spooks fish. If you have a paddle kayak, then this isn't something you'll have to worry about. But for anyone with a pedal drive or motorized kayak, the next tip I'd like to suggest is getting yourself a push pole or stakeout pole. This tool is something that is an absolute game changer when it comes to fishing our shallow waters. Although most kayaks come with a paddle that could be used for push pulling, there is no comparison when it comes to the ability of a dedicated push pole. You can also use your push pole as a stakeout with your scupper holes, allowing you to anchor down in shallow areas. With the push pole, in combination with being quiet and trying your best to move through the water with minimal banging, you're going to spook a lot less fish, which will allow you to get on those skittish ones that you may have been missing before.
So somewhere up here, right there, I think I just saw his tail. Yep, that's him. Let's just go ahead and stand up. That was a big red right there. So this red's right over there in that pocket. That should be a good cast. Oh baby, please be my keeper. Please be my limit. I feel like such a freaking top G right now. Out here having struggle after struggle after struggle. Every day breaking off. To finally come out, put everything together, and get on these guys, man. It is great. Dude, come here. Stop making this so troublesome. Let's go. I'm charged up. I'm charged up.
One thing that is ever present here on the Gulf Coast is our crazy wind patterns. Most days the winds are blowing over 10 miles per hour and can make for a very annoying time on the water. There are several options when it comes to dealing with the wind, and my personal favorite is the spot lock feature on my trolling motor. But before I had that, setting up for drifts and an anchor trolley system were my go-to methods for dealing with the wind. I'm not going to go into detail on an anchor trolley system here in this video, but if it's something you guys would like to see, make sure to comment down below and I'll look into throwing something together. The last tip I have for any new kayak fisherman is to avoid clutter. I can't tell you how many guys I see with tons of junk all over their kayak. I've found that sticking to the basics is the best policy. Get yourself a nice rod holder, maybe a fish finder if it's something you fancy, and leave it at that. When you start adding tons of mounts for different gadgets and gizmos, or my favorite, the super wheels that are just begging to get line tangled in them, not only is it extra crap for you to carry around, but it makes for easy line snags that can ruin a catch when you do finally get on some fish. That's gonna do it for this video. Thanks to everyone who stuck around here to the end, and if you enjoyed it or learned something new, please be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can see all of our new videos here on the channel. Thanks again to everyone, and I hope you guys have a great rest of y'all's day. Peace.